Hey everyone, my name is Ross LeClair. I'm a producer at the Joyce Theater. Thanks so much for joining us today for this artist talkback to go along with the live stream of Malpaso Dance Company's 24 Hours and a Dog, which features choreography by Osnel Delgado, who is also the artistic director of the company, and music composed and performed by Arturo O'Farrill and the Afro-Latin Jazz Ensemble. Today's artist talkback will work a little differently from ones you may have seen before. Because Malpaso is based in Havana, Cuba, Osnel is not able to join us for a traditional live-streamed conversation, but he did pre-record some videos of himself talking about the piece and his process, so we'll be sharing those with you in just a minute. And then separately, I had a conversation with Arturo O'Farrill, who did the music, so we will play that after the clips from Osnel. So first, here is Osnel Delgado, Artistic Director of Malpaso Dance Company.
Cuatro horas y un perro es una obra, la primera obra de grupo de la compañía.
24 Hours and a Dog is the first group work by Malpaso Dance Company.
Creada en el año 2014
It was created on the 2014
con la música de Arturo O'Farrill
after the music by Arturo O'Farrill.
y la pieza es en colaboración con los bailarines.
And the piece was choreographed in collaboration with the dancers.
Trata sobre lo que sucede en un día en La Habana
It deals with a day in the life of the dancers in Havana City.
y un perro imaginario.
And it also it is about an imaginary dog.
Durante nuestra creación lo que tratamos fue más bien de abordar diferentes etapas del día.
Throughout the creation of the piece, of the creative process, we tried to render the different circumstances and situation of our days in the city.
Que empieza con el paseo del perro en la mañana,
The day begins with walking the dog in the morning.
luego el trabajo en el estudio,
After that, we are all at work in the studio.
la hora de almuerzo.
Then lunch time.
Tenemos una sección que se llama Perseguidos por el perro.
Then we have a segment of the work known as Chased by a Dog.
Ensoñación,
Daydream.
y luego cerramos con el gran finale que se titula Calle G.
And then we close the work with the finale that we call G Street.
Cada una de esas secciones son bien especiales, tienen que ver un poco con la vivencia de cada uno de nosotros en ese momento del día.
So each section of the work is very particular, and it is focused on our personal experiences on those moments of the day.
Al principio, en el paseo del perro, lo que se explora más bien es la camaradería, o sea, cómo nos relacionamos nosotros en el principio del día, cómo nos saludamos, cómo nos interactuamos.
In the first section, it is about companionship, it is about social relations, it is about how do we meet and deal one to each other.
En el trabajo en el estudio, creo que cada uno llega también con un poco con el background de dónde viene, o sea, uno explora quién es y de dónde viene a la hora de expresarse a través del trabajo.
Then at work in the studio, we bring who we are, we bring our background, and so we explore who we are during those working sessions.
La hora de almuerzo es muy importante para los bailarines, por eso creo que también es una sección bien especial. Y cada uno trae su propio sabor, su propio...
The break time, the lunch time is very important to all of us, and as we bring our own food, it is a moment of different flavors and smells in the studio.
Perseguidos por el perro es una sección en la cual tratamos de que cada uno de ellos se sienta más bien influenciado por el animal imaginario que puede ser más bien la audiencia, que puede estar entre nosotros. Entonces, cómo nos mantenemos a salvo de ese animal que más bien es el que narra y está ligando a los personajes.
So Chased by a Dog is a section in which we try to develop a relationship with this invisible otherness, and we try to be safe, and this otherness, this imaginary dog, could be the audience, could be the outside world. So we tried all the time to establish a concrete relationship and to keep safe from this outsider, sort of saying.
Ensoñación.
Daydream.
Es, digamos, el momento del día en el cual uno rememora.
Is that moment of the day in which we remember, we recall
la persona que está más cercana a uno.
our beloved ones, this person that is very close to us.
Creo que es un momento muy especial en la pieza, es un dúo.
It is a very special moment in the piece. It is a duet.
Y creo que también un poco explora cómo cada uno de nosotros tiene esa relación para con la persona idílica.
And it creates that moment in which we evoke and we deal with the person that we ideally think about and have with us.
Y que al final, bueno, debo decir que fue la primera sección que construimos de la obra.
The last section, the finale of the piece, is actually the first section that we choreographed and we created.
Quiere decir que la obra la montamos de atrás hacia adelante.
It means that we choreographed the work from the end to the beginning.
Entonces, bueno, es una suerte de coda y tiene todos estos elementos.
It is a kind of coda and it has all the elements.
Hay mucho estrés porque la calle G.
There is a lot of stress because G Street is a crowded place.
Una calle que todo el mundo converge en una hora del día. Entonces, bien como... Sí, o sea, pasa mucho tráfico.
That street is a gathering space, is a place of a lot of traffic.
Pero también de muchas emociones y de muchas cosas al mismo tiempo.
It is a gathering place for young people and there is a lot of action and things happening at once.
And next up, we have another video from Osnel where he speaks more about the music in the piece, how he met Arturo, and what their collaboration has been like now over the past few years.
La relación con Arturo surge, bueno, a través de esta primera pieza con la compañía.
So we started our relationship and collaboration with Arturo, this moment of creation of 24 Hours and a Dog.
Recuerdo que él vino para un festival de jazz, creo que fue a finales del año 2013.
I remember that he came to attend the Havana International Jazz Festival at the end of 2013, December 2013.
Ya estábamos trabajando con su música.
We were already at the time working with his music.
Pero la idea era que él creara una música nueva para la pieza.
However, the idea was that he would create a new score for the piece.
Entonces lo invitamos al estudio.
We invited him to come to the studio.
Yo creo que 3 secciones de la obra.
He saw 3 sections of the piece.
Y se quedó enamorado con el trabajo.
So he fell in love with the work.
Y dijo que de ninguna manera iba a hacer una composición nueva.
Then he said that no way, that he wouldn't create a new score for this particular piece.
Pero sí nos iba a hacer un regalo.
Nevertheless, he would give something to the company, kind of gift or present.
Entonces ideó el principio, que es la obertura.
Then he composed the overture, the very beginning of the piece.
Que es la séptima parte de la pieza, en este caso es como inicio.
So it is the beginning of the piece and it is the 7th or first section of the work.
Que se titula 24 horas en la vida de un perro.
Then this overture is known as 24 Hours in a Dog's Life.
Esta relación con Arturo se ha mantenido entre todos estos años.
So we have developed this relationship with Arturo throughout the years.
Hemos colaborado en otras piezas.
We have collaborated in different works.
Para despedida, en este caso compuso la música originalmente.
I could mention Farewell, so he created the score for this choreography.
Para Dreaming of Lion.
Also he created the score for Dreaming of Lions.
También en este caso compuso la música, en este caso fue una obra de toda una hora de duración.
This is an hour length piece. He composed the music for it.
Y recientemente tenemos otra pieza en la cual él también está colaborando con nosotros.
And now we just finished the last collaboration.
Es un resultado muy hermoso, pero aún estamos a espera de estrenarlo.
This is a very beautiful piece, but we are still waiting to premiere the work.
Que es el dúo de la escoba.
And this is the Duo de la Escoba, the duet with the broom.
Antes de despedirme quisiera mandar un saludo a la familia del Joyce Theater.
Before the farewell, I would love to send greetings and regards to our family of the Joyce Theater.
Y bueno, nada, nos estaremos viendo pronto.
And we will see each other very soon.
And next up is my conversation with Arturo O'Farrill. Arturo is the composer of the music in 24 Hours and a Dog. He's also created music for a few other pieces for Malpaso, as well as other dance companies that many Joyce audience members would be familiar with, Ballet Hispanico, Ron Brown, Ayadeli Cassell. So he's a really brilliant composer, pianist, teacher, person. So I hope you all enjoy the conversation, and wherever you're watching from, I hope that you are safe and healthy, and we look forward to seeing you back at the Joyce again as soon as it's safe to do so. Hi, Arturo. How are you?
How are you, Ross? How's everything?
You know, still in New York. Managing,
Yeah.
and now this is what we do. We have Zoom conversations, so
It's amazing. It's changed the way people interact. I think Zoom has created both a hypersensitivity to focus, attention deficit disorders like mine, and also created people who's really do know how to hyperfocus. Because if you look at the average Zoom meeting, there are people who are like, "Oh, my dog," and then there are people who are like, riveted.
Yeah.
So it's gonna like spell a whole new era in productivity, and then the opposite.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be make or break. So viewers had the chance to watch 24 Hours in a Dog in full on JoyceStream, and then we just heard some videos from Osnel explaining his process and what the piece is about. So he told us a little bit about the start of how you two met, and sort of talked about a story where you were going to compose new music for this piece and then ultimately did not do that. So I'm wondering if you could tell us from your perspective what the early part of this collaboration was like for you.
Well, I met Fernando Sayas at the offices of Nick Schwartz Hall, who is a producer, who was a producer at BAM. He's moved on. And I just kind of walked in, and Fernando was sitting there and was telling me about Osnel and saying how much they've enjoyed listening to my music, because apparently Nick had given them some CDs of mine, and that we would collaborate on a ballet soon. And so, of course, it's a beautiful idea, and I was very deeply moved. But you get those conversations a lot as an artist, where let's do a project. Yeah, this sounds great. Blah blah blah. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So, but I was in Cuba, I guess maybe 9 months later, maybe 8 or 9 months later. I was at a reception at the American Interest section, at the home of the American Interest section chief. And they have their reception every year until recently, for the Havana Jazz Festival. And I ran into Fernando, and Fernando says to me, he goes, "You have to visit us in rehearsal tomorrow, because we've done a little something with your music." So I said, "Sure, why not?" And I expected to see some, workshop, works in progress, stop and start, and very embryonic sketches. And I got there, and Osnel and Malpaso had this mind-blowing, fully realized choreography to, like 5 or 6 of my pieces. And so I was kind of actually the first time after Ballet Hispanico that I'd had that happen. And Ballet Hispanico, for the most part, uses a lot of the piece that we did with them uses a lot of other people's music, but this is different. 24 Hours in a Dog used a lot of my music, and so it was the first time I saw these little pencil markings that we do at our drafting tables all alone take the shape and form of human beings gliding through space, and it was deeply, deeply, deeply moving. And I remember watching this and literally breaking out into tears. And so it's been that experience every time I work with Malpaso. Every time we're now in our 5th collaboration, I think, and every time we do something, I'm always, first of all, I'm always amazed now that I've had a lot of experience working with dance companies at the absolutely the highest level dancers that I can think of, the world-class level dancers that they are. Also, I truly love Malpaso because there's a sense of humor that Malpaso has, and I think it's part of the genetic code of Cubans. Cubans deal with incredible adversity, and especially now in the continuing criminal and genocidal blockade the Cuban people that still takes place to this day under a misguided notion that we're protecting them or us. Who knows? Who knows why? It's just actually the reason why is because they do a lot of things better than we do. Because they're teaching us all kinds of stuff about what humanity is and what it means. Anyway, whatever that political direction I went in, the point is that this company has just been my muse, and I love them so very much as human beings and as artists.
So the piece we know from what we just heard from Osnel is about a day in Havana, and it goes basically from sunrise all the way to the end of the day. Were you involved with him sort of selecting music for different parts of the day, or did you leave that to him to decide?
The only piece that I was directly involved in selecting was the overture, the opening piece, the 24 Hours and a Dog. And but the whole idea resonated with me because I think that the day in the life of a musician is not very different. We get up, we practice, we go out, we roam around, and we do end up in these glorious ensemble settings, just as dancers do. So that was the only piece, and I had some discretion as to how the 16 pieces were edited. But mostly I just, I think Osnel is very much a musician, as are most Cubans. And so the thinking that he had around these pieces was actually very accurate, and I saw no need to interfere.
So then when you sit and watch it, you're like, oh yeah, that is like the nighttime section.
Well, there's a beautiful duet, which he actually electronically manipulated the original track so that there's a fermata. But it's such a natural place for a fermata that
Can you explain to everyone what that is?
A fermata is a dot with a half a circle above it, which means the musician must get to that point and pause.
Okay.
And then return to the tempo.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're, in that section, yeah.
Yeah, and Osnel does such a beautifully musical thing with it that I find, and in many ways, over the years that we've worked together, I've watched Osnel make truly wonderfully intuitive musical decisions about things that we've done together. So it makes sense.
We know that you've collaborated on other works before. I think 2 and sort of 3 now, which are original compositions. So can you just tell us what is the process like when you're creating a new score with him? Are you sending him music first? Is he sending movement first? Are you going down and seeing in the studio? Like, how does that work differently?
We've done a couple of things now where he has sent me, we've done it 3 ways actually, where he has sent me an existing work with placeholding music.
Okay.
We've also sat down and discussed a possible scenario, which he then, because we don't live in the same geographical location, which he then will choreograph 2 concepts that we've spoken about, based, and again, using placeholder music. We've also, he also, this last one I think was really interesting. He choreographed an old Cuban film, and there's a sequence in it that involves a broom. And rather than sending me videos of the company doing the broom, he sent me the original classic Cuban film, which is
it's so good.
It's breathtaking. I mean, I have to say that it's breathtaking, and just knowing the aesthetic of the company and knowing Osnel and Fernando and all the folks that are part of this brilliant company, I know the directions and kinds of musical trepidations and extravagances that one can take. And so I try to push the envelope, obviously.
Yeah. But that's now built on a history of knowing each other and trusting each other, that you can now make some choices that you think will either push him in a certain way or will be comfortable to him in a certain way.
I have to say I wouldn't take chances with any other choreographer that I do with Osnel, because not only do I think that they're that technically bedazzling, but in a way it's a very progressive company. It's future looking. It's progressive. It's not stuck in a rut. And so I am also, as an artist, I kind of I loathe replication, and I loathe being in a rut. It makes me nervous.
Yeah, I would agree. I want to go back to 24 Hours a bit. Knowing again that the piece is about a day in the life in Havana, and I know, of course, that you spend a lot of time there. So for people who just watched the piece but maybe haven't been before, how would you describe Havana? What does it mean to you? Does it inspire you? What's your take on the city?
Havana is, and I don't say this in a particularly good or bad way. I don't mean to. Havana is a city that moves in a very musical manner. I don't know if Cubans are born with a dancing gene, but all Cubans move gracefully. It has a lot to do with poverty. It has a lot to do with having to move quickly and to get online for hours, and had a lot to do with how to entertain yourself with nothing. So Cubans are genetically predisposed to movement, in my opinion. And then there's this resiliency that is also the earmark of all great dancers. And I know, because I've worked with dancers now, and I'm always amazed by the relentless energy and commitment they show. They put us to shame. Musicians, listen carefully. They put us to shame with their dedication. And the relatively short shelf life of a dancer is also something that always moves me to tears. And so, in a way, Cubans are like that. They make 1952 Edsels run for 30, 40 years and run better than most cars. They can fix electrical wiring with spit, Band-Aid, and a bobby pin. And this kind of inventiveness permeates the rhythm of life in Cuba. They're resilient and they're just a fierce people. And so I think that if you look at life on the Cuban basis, you will see dogs rolling around. You'll see people chilling. You'll see people really having a remarkably outdoor life. Everything's outdoors. And this is true for most Latinos. We love to sit on the stoops. But I think in Cuba, everything is lived outside of your house. And your children, here's something that always floored me. Your children are free to roam around, which to me is the most musical thing I can think of. Music, the sound of children laughing and screaming and running it's like a symphony to me. And if you go to Cuba, you see Cuban children running around freely, unafraid of strangers, freely unafraid of life. And we in the United States have created an environment where children are shot when they go to school periodically. We've created an environment in which sexual predators freely roam amongst us. And so children here do not have that freedom and that sound, that joy, that music, that rhythm, that incredible symphony of cacophony that is the sound of children freely roaming is absent from us, from the sound and rhythm of our lives. And I also, there's a place in Cuba called the Malecon, and young people will go, it's a seawall, and young people will go early in the evening to celebrate life and hang out and just sing and party and do what young people do, and they'll do it till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then get up and go to work. So I mean, it is a place that exudes music. everywhere you turn, you'll hear a trumpet practicing, or a
Yeah.
piano player practicing, or someone singing opera, or someone singing reggaeton. Everywhere
Hmm.
you see radios on. It's such a deeply musical place that people are always singing and especially dancing in Cuba.
Yeah. I always find that as complicated and difficult as it can be, those elements, that humanity in the music are so strong and come through, you know, despite.
I really believe that's one of the reasons why this anti-engagement rhetoric has flared up again, because
Mm,
even as this nation has turned towards more mediocrity, even
mhm.
as this nation has become less concerned with human rights and global realities, even as this nation has become returned to, or maybe even never left, but returned to a much more racially divided uh, philosophy from the top down.
Mhm.
From the top down, we see a nation, a nation, a Cuban people that sends its doctors to Spain
Right.
during
Italy. Yeah.
Italy and
Yep.
throughout the world, and has
Yeah.
been doing so, and confers medical degrees on those who are worthy from anywhere.
Yeah.
We see a Cuban people who will give you the last, the last little bit of their love and energy when we're so
Mhm.
greedily hanging on to ours. So
Yeah.
it puts us to shame, and it kind of shows a lot
Yeah.
about the character of why Cuba is so free and we are so
Mhm.
repressed.
Yeah. And even now, I talked to Fernando, and all the Malpaso dancers are working on solos or duets at home, on their terraces, anywhere. So just getting back to the company and as dancers, that resilience is happening still for them.
I mean, I totally can relate. We resurrected our Birdland Sundays. Sundays at
Oh,
Birdland, which I've been doing for 25 years. We just started a virtual Sunday
oh, cool.
Birdland. And so, yeah, I mean, we can't stop. And I'm not saying we as Latinos or Cubanos, because I think good people of good cheer
Hmm.
and people of good resolve are never going to stop. There's a funny thing, because I think it applies to dance as well. I raised my kids, and their therapist bills can prove it, by periodically, asking them, "What's more important than the groove?" And they would look up and go, "Nothing, Dad."
Good
And
answer.
it's true. It's true. We got to keep dancing, as
Yeah.
Jules Pfeiffer so beautifully wrote in his cartoons and showed in his cartoons.
Hmm.
We got to keep dancing. We can't
Yeah.
stop the dance. We can't stop
Yeah.
the music. We can't stop the groove.
Yeah. And we need the music to be dancing too. So it's great that you're in that same spirit with everyone else.
I'm
Um,
thrilled.
a couple a couple things to wrap up. You mentioned Ballet Hispanico. Joyce, audiences will know you also from your collaboration with Ayadeli Cassell. You worked with Ron Brown. So um, just curious, those are pretty different choreographers, I think, in their style. But is there something consistent that you see in all of them that draws you to work with them?
I think radically. I think there's radical differences in all their approaches to. I'm not a dancer and don't understand the notation of dance or the canon of it or the practicum of it, but I know that there's very different techniques with all of those choreographers. What I would
Right.
say though is that all of the choreographers I've worked with have this relentless kind of connection between what people mistakenly call classical dance and folk dance, so that the seamlessness between a rumba and a modern dance, it's those are colors in a palette.
Hmm.
And so the people that I have had the fortune to work with aren't caught in amber, saying we are
Hmm.
traditionalists, we are
Hmm.
modernists, we are fringists, we are
Hmm.
none of that. The people that I've had the privilege of working with, like me, see a continuum from the most wonderful folk art
Hmm.
to the most highest cultivated art, and they don't see
Hmm.
the separation. And I
Hmm.
like that. I applaud them because I see the continuum as well.
Yeah, I love that and totally agree. I think that's really, really cool and powerful. To wrap up, I just want to ask, as we're all in quarantine, I know you're in LA, just what are you watching? Is there music you're listening to? Things you can recommend to this audience who might want to know, what is Arturo doing to pass the time?
Well, we've been watching a movie every night.
Okay.
My wife picks one night, and I pick another night, and my son picks another night, and it's just been incredibly cool to see the different. I saw a movie that I haven't seen since I was a child that I absolutely love. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, with Sidney Poitier and Katharine Hepburn, and it's such a wonderful movie, and I'm listening to so much music. We're so wrapped up in the producing of the virtual Birdland series. We've been live streaming concerts from the Middle East that we did, and live concerts, and we're starting a whole virtual education page with the Afro Latin Jazz Alliance. In some ways, we're all filled with fear, with all terror. I mean, we're all terrified of dying, being sick, knowing people that we know that have died, being sick, knowing people that are sick. But the thing that I'm most terrified by, again, is with all these personal connections to death and illness, how there can still be people that are ignorant enough to think this is a hoax. That's the thing that frightens me. And the people who will capitalize on their stupidity to promote their power and gain. So in that situation, my response traditionally throughout my life has been to create. Pick up the instrument, get out the drafting table, and just create. I'm just going to create something. And create. I have to respond proactively, because otherwise I will get very, very sad and brokenhearted.
Yeah. Can you tell us where we can find the Birdland sessions or anything else you're streaming?
AfroLatinJazz.org. We're getting ready to do a concert tonight of a show we did called check this out, the Middle Eastern Roots of Afro-Cuban Music.
Is this what I saw? Does this come from what I saw in Abu Dhabi when we were both there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is carrying on.
We're carrying it on. We're
Cool.
going to carry on all kinds of presentations that we've done,
Awesome.
and hopefully with a lot more work with dancers as well, because I know we have a lot of archive history of dance work that we've done.
Yeah. Sounds awesome. Well, thank you very much,
Thank
not
you
only for this conversation, but also just keeping the groove going. It's really special.
Love the Joyce and always will.
Thanks. We love you back.
Take care.
Talk to you soon. Thanks so much, Arturo.
Bye-bye.
Be well.